After my father passed, I moved back home to help my mom. I took care of the house, paid the bills, cooked every meal. Then last week, she told me to pack my bags. "You're just a reminder of everything I hate," she said. My brother pulled into the driveway and took my key. "This isn't your home anymore," he said. I sat on the curb until midnight. The next morning, I called a lawyer who. I was 32, living in St. Louis. Had a steady job, rented a decent apartment, and things were okay. Nothing special, but I was making it. Then I got the call. Heart attack. No warning. He was gone before the ambulance even got there. It didn't feel real at first. I remember sitting on the floor in my kitchen just staring at the wall. I couldn't process it. Dad was the rock of the family. Quiet, steady, always knew what to do. When things got tough growing up, he didn't yell. He just handled it. He was the kind of man you thought would live forever because nothing ever seemed to shake him. I went back home to Bloomington, Indiana, for the funeral. My mom was a wreck. She looked so small, like she'd shrunk in a week. My brother, Rick, flew in from Seattle. He cried a little at the funeral and then spent most of the reception checking his phone. I stayed an extra few days after he flew out, just to help Mom get things in order. Then one night, about a week after the funeral, she sat on the couch holding a photo of Dad and said, "I don't know how I'm going to do this alone." That's when I made the decision. I told her I'd come home, help out for a while. Just until she got her footing. She didn't say no. She looked relieved, honestly. So I packed up my life. Quit my job, ended the lease, sold some furniture, and moved back to my childhood home. I figured it'd be 6 months, maybe a year. I thought I was doing the right thing. The first few weeks were rough. The house was full of reminders. His slippers still by the bed, half-used aftershave in the bathroom, his tools in the garage. I didn't touch them. I just let them be. I started taking over the chores. I mowed the lawn, cleaned the gutters, took out the trash, fixed what needed fixing. I cooked dinner every night. Paid bills with what I had in savings. Mom didn't have a job. She had Dad's pension and Social Security, but it wasn't much. I never asked her for money. I figured we were in this together. I tried to make things feel normal. I'd invite her to watch TV with me, or go on walks. Sometimes she'd come. Sometimes she'd say no and sit in her room for hours. I thought she was grieving. I gave her space. I let the little things slide, the sighs when I asked if she was okay, the way she ignored me when I talked. I figured she'd come around eventually. But instead, things got worse. She started acting distant. Cold. I'd make dinner and she'd eat in silence, then leave the table without a word. I'd ask if she wanted to go out, maybe grab a coffee or visit the park, and she'd just say she was too tired. She stopped asking how I was doing. Stopped calling me by my name. Just you, or nothing at all. Then she started disappearing during the day. No explanations. I'd come home from a job and the house would be empty. I'd text call, no answer. I'd find takeout in the trash from places she used to love, but she never invited me. Never brought anything back. It felt like I was a ghost in my own home. Still, I stayed. I kept working, kept helping. I told myself this was just grief. She'd come around. She was hurting. I had to be patient. Then last Thursday happened. I came home around 6:30 after working on a broken fence in a nearby neighborhood. I was tired, covered in sawdust and sweat. I came through the back door, expecting to grab a shower and make dinner. She was sitting at the kitchen table. Her purse was on the counter. A duffel bag sat by her feet. She didn't look at me when she spoke. "You need to pack your things." I stood there, confused. "What?" She looked at me. Dead in the eyes. "You're not welcome here anymore. This was supposed to be temporary. You're just a reminder of everything I hate." I laughed. I thought it was a joke. A really messed up joke. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I've been taking care of everything. I left my life to be here. For you." Her face didn't change. "I didn't ask you to." That one cut deep. I started to argue, but I heard a car pull into the driveway. I walked to the front window. It was Rick. I hadn't seen him in over a year. He got out of a shiny black rental SUV, sunglasses on, smug look on his face. He walked up to the porch like he owned the place. I opened the door. "Hey," I said, still reeling. "What are you doing here?" He held up a key, my key to the house. He must have made a copy from the spare. "This isn't your home anymore," he said. I blinked. "You've got to be kidding me." He shrugged. "Mom made her decision. Time to move on." I stood there in silence. He walked past me, into the house, like I didn't exist. I grabbed my backpack and what little I could fit. A few clothes, my tools, a phone charger. I stood on the curb until midnight, watching the lights turn off one by one. Nobody came out. Not even to say goodbye. I slept in my truck in a Walmart parking lot that night. The next morning, I started making calls. I wasn't going to beg. I wanted answers. I found Jeff Langston, a lawyer in town. He used to be a prosecutor but switched to estate and family law. Tough guy, no small talk. I told him everything. He asked if I was ever added to the deed. I didn't know. I remembered Dad asking me to sign something a couple years back, but I never thought much of it. Jeff pulled records. And there it was. I was on the deed. Joint tenant with right of survivorship. Dad had added me after his first health scare, in case something happened. Which meant when he died, I legally owned half the house. She had no right to kick me out. Jeff looked at me and said, "We can work with this." I felt something shift in my chest. I'd been walking around feeling helpless, like garbage someone threw out. But now, I had power. I wasn't going to beg for space in my own home. I was going to take back what was mine, and I was going to make sure they felt it. Jeff moved fast. Within 2 days, he had paperwork drafted. A letter addressed to my mother and Rick, formally notifying them that I was a legal co-owner of the house. It spelled out, in plain English, that they had no right to evict me. And if they didn't let me back in immediately, we'd be filing a civil suit for unlawful eviction and property theft, since I hadn't been allowed to take most of my things. He had it delivered by courier. The same evening, Rick called me. First time in over a year he'd reached out to me directly. I let it go to voicemail. His message started calm, like he was trying to play it cool. "Hey man, no need to get lawyers involved, okay? Let's just talk this out like family." Then it turned ugly. "You don't want to do this. You'll regret it. You want to make this about paperwork? Fine. Let's go. But don't expect anyone to have your back." I didn't respond. I forwarded the voicemail to Jeff. 3 days later, Jeff filed the suit. That's when the real ugliness started. They started spinning lies. Rick and Mom told the neighbors I had been violent. That I was unstable. That I'd threatened her, scared her. I found out when Mrs. Raines, the woman across the street who'd known me since I was a kid, wouldn't even make eye contact with me when I walked past the gas station. People who used to wave at me when I walked down the street now acted like I didn't exist. Or worse, like I was some kind of criminal. Then I found out Rick was talking to my old high school friends on Facebook, telling them I had snapped after Dad died. That I was obsessed with the house. That I had mental issues. He said I was trying to steal from Mom. It didn't stop there. One of my former handyman clients texted me out of nowhere. Said they had to cancel a job. A new fence I was supposed to build. No reason given. I asked why, and after a long pause, they admitted someone called them and said I was a thief. Rick was trying to ruin me. I didn't know where he was staying, but I was sure he was living at the house. Free food, free bed, probably raiding the savings Dad had left for Mom. She let him. Of course she did. He was always the golden boy, went to college, moved out of state, made good money in software. Never called. Never visited. But somehow, he was still the favorite. I was the one who stayed. Who cleaned the gutters. Who sat with her when she cried. But none of that mattered. Then Jeff called. He said, "They filed a counterclaim." I asked what it was. "They're trying to say you signed away your rights. They submitted a form they claim you signed after your dad died, giving up your share of the house." I knew immediately it was fake. I never signed anything like that. I went down to Jeff's office and looked at the copy they submitted. The signature looked like mine, sort of. But it was shaky. Off. And the date? It was supposedly signed 2 days after the funeral. I was still in St. Louis then. I hadn't even moved back yet. Jeff raised an eyebrow. "They forged this." I nodded. "Yeah. This is good," he said. I didn't get it at first. "If we can prove this is forged," he said, "we're not just talking about a civil suit. That's criminal. That's fraud. It changes everything." He brought in a handwriting expert. We gave them real samples of my signature. They confirmed what we suspected. The document was a forgery. Jeff filed a motion to bring it to light in court. At that point, I think Rick and Mom started to panic. Because that's when the threats started. Phone calls from blocked numbers. "You don't want to do this. You're ruining your mother. You're the reason your father's dead. You'll lose everything." One night, my truck tires were slashed. Another night, someone broke into the motel I was staying at and went through my things. Nothing stolen, just trashed. Clothes thrown around. My shaving cream sprayed all over the mirror. It was supposed to scare me. Instead, it made me more focused. Jeff filed for an emergency hearing. The judge set a date, 2 weeks out. While we waited, I kept working side jobs and staying quiet. But inside, I was seething. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to expose them. I started collecting everything. Every receipt I'd paid for, groceries, water bills, repairs I did around the house. I printed out texts, voicemails. Even dug up old photos, me replacing the kitchen sink, fixing the back fence, installing the new ceiling fan in Mom's room. I sent it all to Jeff. Then, one day before the hearing, I got a call I never expected. My mom. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Her voice was quiet. Flat. "Please don't do this," she said. I waited. "I'm sick," she added. "The stress is making me worse. You're tearing this family apart." I said nothing. After a long pause, she said, "This house isn't yours. It was never yours. Your father made a mistake. But I'm correcting it." That's when I knew there was no fixing this. She'd made her choice. And now, I was going to make mine. The hearing was set for Monday morning at 9 a.m. I arrived at the courthouse early, suit and tie, folder in hand. Jeff met me out front, calm as always. We walked in together. My hands were sweating, but my mind was clear. They were already there. Rick wore some overpriced jacket like he was walking into a business deal, not a courtroom. He smirked when he saw me, leaned over to whisper something to my mom. She didn't even look at me. When the judge came in, we all stood. Then it began. Jeff started with the basics: timeline, documents, my father's death, the deed. He laid out the whole story with calm precision. Then he dropped the forged waiver into evidence. That's when things shifted. The judge raised an eyebrow, flipped through it, and looked at the expert report we submitted. He asked Rick and my mother if they had anything to say. Rick stood up. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We thought the document was real. We had it on file. I guess it might have been a mistake." The judge cut him off. "So you submitted a legal document claiming your brother gave up property rights, and now you're saying you're not sure where it came from?" Rick sat down. Mom didn't speak. She just looked at her lap. Jeff asked for access to the house to recover my belongings, and then some. We were filing for partition of the property. That meant if they didn't want to buy out my half, we'd force a sale. The house would go on the market, and the profits would be split. That got their attention. Suddenly, Rick was up again. "Your Honor, this is our family home. He doesn't care about it. He's trying to hurt us. He's angry because we asked him to leave, and now he wants revenge." Jeff stood calmly. "If he wanted revenge, Mr. Rick wouldn't still be walking around. What my client wants is simple: what he's owed." We left the courtroom with a court order to retrieve my things and the judge reviewing the rest. It wasn't over, but it was already leaning heavily in our favor. But then something unexpected happened. 2 days after the hearing, I got a call from a woman named Meredith. She said she worked at the credit union my dad had used. "I think you should come in," she said. "There's something you need to see." I drove over right away. She pulled out a folder with a letter my dad had written, addressed to me. It was dated about 8 months before he died. "I found this when I was cleaning out old client records," she said. "Your father kept it with some insurance paperwork. I think he meant for you to have it." I opened it with shaking hands. It was short. Simple. But it changed everything. "If anything ever happens to me, take care of your mother, but don't let Rick take advantage of her. I've seen the way he talks about the house. He's not here for her. He's here for what he can take. You're the only one I trust. That's why your name is on the deed. Stay strong. Love, Dad." I sat there in the lobby, staring at the paper. My heart was pounding. Everything I suspected was right. Rick didn't come back to help. He came to cash in. And Mom let him. Whether it was weakness or selfishness or something worse, she let it happen. I sent a copy to Jeff immediately. We added it to our filings. But that wasn't all. Jeff asked me a question later that day. "Did your father have a will?" I didn't know. He did. Jeff found a lawyer in Indianapolis who'd drawn up a basic will years ago. It was never updated. It left everything to my mom, except for one specific request. My dad's truck. His old Chevy. And his tools. He'd left them to me. Rick had sold them. I didn't even know until Jeff dug it up. They were gone. Sold a week after I got kicked out. That was theft. Jeff smiled when I told him. They just gave us more fuel. Then something else happened, another twist I wasn't ready for. A woman named Diane messaged me on Facebook. She said she was a nurse at a clinic Mom had been visiting. I hope this isn't out of line, she wrote. But I overheard your mom and brother talking. They were trying to get medical paperwork changed. Something about showing you were unstable. They wanted a note from a doctor saying you had episodes. My blood ran cold. They were building a fake mental health case against me. Trying to smear me, maybe even get me committed if they could swing it. Jeff immediately filed a protective motion with the court. We asked for an injunction to prevent any more damage or tampering. We also subpoenaed security footage from the clinic. 2 days later, we got a call. Rick had been caught on camera entering a back office he wasn't authorized to be in. Papers went missing that same day. The clinic launched an internal investigation. Rick was under fire now, and cracking. The threats stopped. Then I got an email. From Rick. Can we just talk? No lawyers. Just you and me. Please. I didn't answer. I forwarded it to Jeff. They thought they could tear me down, smear my name, take everything and laugh about it. Now? They were sinking. And I wasn't even close to finished. The court date to finalize everything was set for late October. Jeff and I showed up early again. By then, I wasn't nervous anymore. I was ready. We had stacks of evidence. Financial records, the forged signature, the letter from Dad, Diane's statement, footage from the clinic, and proof that Rick had sold Dad's truck and tools. It was all in the file. Neatly labeled. Bulletproof. Rick walked into the courtroom looking pale. He'd shaved, wore a suit too big for him, and kept fidgeting. My mother came in behind him. She looked tired, but her eyes still had that cold look, the same one she had the day she told me to leave. The judge didn't waste time. First, the forged document. Jeff laid out every inconsistency, had the handwriting expert testify, and showed the real timeline. My mom and Rick said nothing. Then Jeff brought up the missing truck and tools. He showed the will. Then he showed the bill of sale from the auto auction in Evansville, signed by Rick, dated a week after I got kicked out. That was theft. Then came the medical clinic issue. The judge's eyebrows went up as Jeff laid out the attempt to fabricate mental health records. The video footage sealed it. You could see Rick walking into the back office, talking to someone, trying to convince them to change notes. The person refused, and he left empty-handed. But it was enough. The judge leaned back in his chair and said, "What I see here is a pattern. A very disturbing one." Rick's lawyer stood up, tried to do damage control. Blamed stress. Family grief. Misunderstandings. Then my mom spoke. "I just wanted peace," she said. "I didn't ask for this fight. I didn't want him here. He made everything harder." The judge looked at her. "So instead of asking him to leave respectfully, you conspired to forge a legal document, let your son sell property that didn't belong to him, and allowed false rumors to spread?" She didn't answer. The room was silent for a long time. Then the judge spoke again. "I'm granting Mr. Langston's motion. The house will be partitioned and sold. Proceeds will be divided equally. Mr. Rick and Ms. Arlene have 30 days to vacate or negotiate a settlement buyout. Furthermore, due to the fraudulent documents submitted to this court, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges." Rick looked like someone punched him in the gut. My mother, she didn't react at all. As we left the courtroom, Rick followed me outside. His voice shook. "Are you happy now?" I turned to him. "No. But I'm done letting you walk on me." Then I walked away. It took 3 months to sell the house. During that time, Rick tried to negotiate a buyout, but he didn't have the money. My mom called once. Left a voicemail saying she had nowhere to go. I didn't respond. They moved out 2 weeks before closing. I drove by the day after. The house was dark, empty. The lawn was overgrown. I stood on the sidewalk for a while, remembering all the years I'd spent there, the Christmas mornings, the backyard barbecues, the late nights fixing things after Dad got too tired. Then I left and never looked back. With my half of the sale, I bought a small fixer-upper outside Terre Haute. I rebuilt the workshop myself. Framed Dad's letter and hung it above the workbench. Jeff later told me that the DA's office took the forgery seriously. Rick got hit with charges. Plea deal, community service, fines, and a record. He tried to get another job in Seattle. Didn't pass the background check. My mother ended up moving in with a cousin in Kentucky. I heard from a neighbor that she tried to rent a place in Bloomington but got turned down because word had spread. Nobody would say it to her face. But people knew. One night, months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note. No. Dear. No. Love. Just. You ruined this family. Hope it was worth it. There was no signature, but I recognized the handwriting. I burned it. Was I perfect? No. I let things go too long. I let guilt run my life after Dad died. I gave too much of myself, hoping I'd get love back. But in the end, I did the one thing none of them expected. I stood up for myself. I exposed the lies. And I made damn sure that the people who tried to destroy me had to live with what they did, every single day. That house? It used to be my prison. Now it's gone. And I sleep better than I have in years.